Hey there, friends. Thought I'd see if you'd care to join me on a little trip across South Dakota. We'll go from east to west, starting here in Sioux Falls. And there they are, the beautiful, the mighty Sioux Falls. Namesake of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where we are currently. Look at the power. It's a beautiful day that we spent here looking at the Sioux Falls. I'm not sure who Sue was. Lots of lovely rock formations, as you can see. There are areas where you're able to climb down, and as you look across the falls, you'll notice a building over there. We'll talk about that a little more later on. Listen to the mighty falls roar. This is the Queen Bee Mill, built on the mighty banks of the river there at Sioux Falls. The plan was a 7-story grain mill that would include a milling area as well as 7 stories of storage for the grains and things there. It was quite a plan. Unfortunately, it never reached fruition because the falls couldn't create enough power to fill up that giant building and hold all that grain, but they used it, and then eventually it went out of business. And now it's a ruin there on the banks of the mighty Sioux Falls, the hive of the Queen City. And there's little turtle buddy poking around in the water. Wonder if he's a ninja. Now let's head on over to the USS South Dakota Battleship Museum, also in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. You may remember our trip down to the Battleship Alabama, which was a sister ship to the South Dakota, one of the Battleship X ships. And I've left this placard that describes the Battleship X designation on here for quite a while, so if you wanted to pause it and read that, you can. And here's what remains of the USS South Dakota that was actually decommissioned and destroyed. So the museum is laid out in the shape of a ship outdoors, and that's actually a ship's propeller and various items that were recovered from the ship and from other ships have been placed around to give you a feeling of the size and dimensions of a USS South Dakota. There's a beautiful inlaid seal, and the entire outline of where the ship's body would be is surrounded with flags. It's beautiful, the wind blowing and the flags are fluttering. These are medallions commemorating the various battles that the USS South Dakota was involved in during her storied career. Representations of where the main deck guns would be and actual examples of the ammunition used in those. And here we see the ship's anchor along with that enormous chain. Tried to move that sucker, but boy, is it heavy. You can't hardly even budge a link of that. That's a radar antenna array, and this is the conning tower from the ship. The flag flying mightily above, proudly waving in the wind. Here we are at the foot of the conning tower. As you can see, it's quite a ways up there to the crow's nest. And there again, we can see the propeller, and here we have a up-close view of a port hatch. And an interesting story, a family member of mine died during World War II when one of these hatch doors slammed closed on him. Because of the great weight, it crushed his body. Horrified. And here are some actual planking decks that came from the deck of the USS South Dakota. These are the actual planks that servicemen would walk on, although those don't look like military regulation footwear. Here's looking up the barrel of the 16-inch gun. This is the one full-size 16-inch gun that's on site. But the USS South Dakota was festooned, bristling with armaments and large caliber weaponry. You can see that it's caged off, I assume, to keep vagrants and other ne'er-do-wells from entering the bore, or small children from getting stuck. There's a lovely wall here with several plaques on it commemorating various details of the USS South Dakota and its armaments, and very interesting to read. Again, if you have the time, I encourage you to hit the pause button. Hopefully you can zoom in on some of that. And there again is that enormous ship's propeller. So essentially they've created the footprint of the ship, and then inside the little building here we have the actual museum filled with so many artifacts, it's just chock full. Some radar equipment that was used on the USS South Dakota. Diesel engines. Models of the ship itself. There's a small one, and over here you see there's a much bigger one. It's a great little museum. Look at all that memorabilia. Walls and walls and walls of photographs. I can't even begin to tell you or describe all the various artifacts, memorabilia that you can see here. There's the ship's bell from the USS South Dakota. My goodness. It's like walking through real history. There's a life preserver and a fine painting of the great ship. Here's a Japanese rising sun flag. And just look at all these showcases, chock full of all sorts of memorabilia, photos, nostalgic items. There's some things from the Marine Corps, and there's some medals. That one on the far right is World War II Victory Medal. There's a pennant from Fiji, home of the Fiji Mermaid. Various awards and medals. Another radar. Some life-preserving equipment there, you can see in that case. Even a baseball. Cups and saucers, an officer's hat, a sailor's hat. There's a lot of paperwork about the South Dakota. Another officer's hat there in that showcase. There's a Nazi flag and another entire wall of photos. It just never ends. Let's head on down the road to Mitchell, South Dakota. A couple things you'll see out the side of the road on your way. As we're traveling westward across southern South Dakota, there's a rest stops with teepees. There's the Enchanted World Doll Museum of Mitchell, but what we came for is the one and only Corn Palace. This building is essentially a municipal auditorium, and the exterior is completely decorated with corn, corn cobs, corn husk, and every year the exterior design is reinvented and reapplied in a new way with new illustrations. Here's a little glimpse inside. Again, those diagrams above the stage there are all made from corn and corn products, and they have on display several images of past designs for the Corn Palace. Free of charge, Mitchell Corn Palace, Mitchell, South Dakota. You head on west, come through Chamberlain, where there's a lake created by a dam on the Missouri River. Beautiful little area. You like outdoors, sort of things and fishing and that type of thing, you'll enjoy that. And of course, the wall drug signs start popping out of everywhere as you travel across South Dakota heading west. Wall Drug, of course, started out by giving away free ice water to attract tourists who are traveling through the area. And there's a roadside sign for 1880 Town, our next destination. Whoa, a T-Rex! It looks like he's heading for 1880 Town, Murdo, South Dakota. 1880 Town is a paid attraction, but it's essentially an Old West town. The buildings are all authentic. Some were from there, and some were moved from other locations to there. But 1880 Town is literally set up as an Old West town. It was figured prominently in Dances with Wolves and also has a great deal of memorabilia connected with that film. Here are some artificial buffalo that were created for the buffalo hunt scene in Dances with Wolves. And this is the fort where Kevin Costner lived by himself, and a teepee from the Indian village. Here's the tent where they cut off people's legs. And there's a dead fake buffalo, all from Dances with Wolves. Be some more stuff later. Here's the interior of the saloon, a player piano, and a fine bar light. Even tables for playing poker. This wagon was also used in Dances with Wolves. This is the wagon that transports Kevin Costner's character across the prairie to his new fort. Here's some panoramic views of 1880 Town. Interesting to note that here in the saloon you can also rent Old West costumes for adults and children at a nominal fee, so you can dress up like a cowboy as you stroll through 1880 Town. And there's a 1880 cat. You can go through the buildings and see actual artifacts recreating the historic lifestyle of frontier towns. There's a house you don't have to go in to see what's inside it. And there's a genuine Wells Fargo stagecoach. 1880 Town goes on and on forever, and if you love the Old West, you will love it. Well, thanks for coming with me today. I want to invite you to please subscribe, like, comment, and share. Join us again for another trip real soon. Adios.